So very good afternoon to our fellow viewers. So we have us with here nutritionist Ms. Sujatha. A little bit of her introduction is that she's a registered dietitian. So based in Chennai. She's been in practice since 2017 with masters from reputed college in Chennai, such as Sri Ramachandra, and also a PG diploma in fitness and nutrition from Tamil Nadu Physical Education and Sports Institute. So thank you, Sujatha, for being on board.
Thank you, Javed. Thank you for having me.
Okay. So we really, would like to express our sincere appreciation for the response, for letting us, interview today. And, it's been like really hectic and despite your busy schedule. So let me start off by saying a little bit of 60 Plus India. So we are an app that basically allows anyone to, help their grandmom for a walk, or if they require their grandfather to, or their father to have a doctor's visit at home or to be taken care of. And so we make sure these services are, being eased out for them, being far away. Like, so we also provide other services such as, providing nurse, attenders, and we have a list of services that we do and through the app, basically. So that's about 60 plus. And moving on. So, so we'll start off this is exclusive for our senior citizens. So, we wanted to start off by saying, what is nutrition? Why is it important for older adults? And if you could say something about it.
Yeah. So nutrition is basically the science that deals with food and the nutrients that it gives us. So its impact on the body is what we study in nutrition. So basically nutrients are what we get when we eat food, and different nutrients play different roles inside the body. So for basically the functioning of each and every organ system inside your body, you need the consolidated work of all these different nutrients. So that is what nutrition would give you. A proper nutrition would give you, so that it can maintain health through different phases of life. Now, since we are focusing more in particular to senior adults, senior adulthood, or even what we commonly call as old age, is again a phase where people undergo a lot of different physiological changes. So be it in terms of energy levels, generally older adults tend to feel, a little more lethargic or lower on energy levels. They fatigue faster, or even in terms of bone health, there would be a decline in terms of bone density. There is muscle loss, so there's an overall feeling of weakness, all of which can affect their movement. They would experience pain, and not just physically, even mentally, there are a lot of changes that are happening. Maybe it is a loss of a loved one, or maybe it's isolation. So all this can even affect their strength levels, their stress levels, and also in terms of their mental health, or even in terms of the way the brain functions, right? Even there tends to be memory issues, there tends to be cognitive decline. So all this can definitely make living a bit difficult. But when it comes to maintaining your health, having an adequate intake of nutrients, or even adequate physical activity, adequate sleep, addressing stress levels, all these can actually play a crucial role when it comes to maintaining quality of life for people going through this phase. So it is definitely possible to age in a healthy way. Like, it doesn't have to be something where people go through difficulty in terms of maintaining their health, and food plays a major role when it comes to addressing all these things.
Wow. Yeah, that is actually true for when it comes to elder seasons. There's a lot more than on an overall aspect of growth, on age aspect.
Definitely.
So for starters, like, how how can an aging adult start eating healthy? Um,
Okay.
any words on that?
Yeah. So speaking of starting to eat healthy, I always believe that the earlier you start, the better it is. So we don't really have to wait until we are old in order to
Yes.
take care of ourselves. So a person who enters old age, with a proper state of health or with a proper lifestyle tends to have a much better quality of living than someone who hasn't had a healthy lifestyle, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it is important that even as middle-aged adults or even earlier, it could be much beneficial if people can pay attention to their health and
Mm-hmm.
take measures that can make their body cope with this entire phase.
Mm-hmm.
But even otherwise, one more thing that I absolutely believe in is that it's never late to start. So even if things have not been in place in the past, it's always, I mean, you can start off from where you are. And
Mm-hmm.
so majorly, it wouldn't require something that's complicated to change. So there are, simple things that you can start off with, maybe in the likes of improving on your hydration, ensuring that you drink enough water, because
Okay.
dehydration is extremely common among older adults, and because of which there are a lot of complications that develop, especially in terms of their gut health and their bowel movements. So
Mm-hmm.
correcting hydration could be one of the easiest steps to start with. Having a sleep routine can be another.
Mm-hmm.
Ensuring a proper sleep time and a proper wake up time. This in turn will affect the way they eat as well. So that again could be something where they can start off with. Another thing is in terms of how much someone has to eat, I think it begins with paying attention to your body signals. So
Okay.
if we can, understand when our body tells us it's hungry or when it's full, observing how your appetite works. So all this can help you, have your own judgment of how much quantity is right for you. If you're
Mm-hmm.
able to maintain your energy levels throughout the day, if you're not feeling lethargic throughout the day, if you're feeling active,
Mm-hmm.
even for doing daily activities or even any form of physical activity that we're involving in, then it is a good enough sign that we're eating adequate quantities. But in case you're lagging on energy, you might have to step up on that. So observing
Yes.
what your body tells you could be really important in terms of knowing how much quantity your body requires.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is ensuring that a proper quality of intake. By quality, I would mean a proper intake of different nutrients that your body requires to cope with the different changes in the phase. So this again doesn't have to be complicated. You just need to ensure that you eat a variety of different food. So each food has its own nutrient profile. So naturally, when we eat a variety of food, we
Mm-hmm.
tend to get the best of each and every one of these different foods. So that
Right.
way we can, like, it's not technically possible to sit and measure each and every nutrient, but this could be an easier way to ensure that we are eating adequately. And as far as meal timing is concerned, our body loves rhythm. So it
Mm-hmm.
loves when things are constant. So it could be useful if we can figure out what meal timing works for us and stick to that consistently. If you
True.
feel good eating breakfast at a particular time, stick to that particular time consistently over a period of duration, so that your body gets set to that rhythm. So making small changes like these are good enough to actually start off in terms of modifying your eating pattern. Maybe adding more color to colorful food to your plate. So this
Mm-hmm.
again indirectly influences the antioxidants that you take. Now, aging is an outcome of cell damage, right? With
Mm-hmm.
age,
Yes.
our cells get damaged more, and antioxidants are extremely important to prevent cell damage.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
can counteract inflammation, it can help improve your immunity. So
Mm-hmm.
overall, these simple changes can actually have a greater impact, and it has a scientific basis behind it. So this is somewhere people can start off
Okay. Nice. Also, I mean, with said that, could you explain the the importance of balanced diet in senior citizens, and how it helps regulate blood sugar? Because being old, we are being young and being old have one thing in common. The things that they crave for. So, having that in mind, so how can a balanced diet regulate blood sugar levels?
Okay. So basically, there are a lot of different diets with different fancy names around. So there's
Yes.
nothing that we don't find on the internet. But this term balanced diet is something that we've been hearing a lot, and it seems to
True.
be one constant. It's never lost its the trend. So what balance means is that we're taking adequate amounts of different nutrients or different foods contributing to different nutrients so that we can optimally meet the body's requirement. So this again can be easily accomplished by making sure that you take appropriate portions of different food groups. Say, for
Hmm.
example, you're eating lunch. So
Yes.
having a serving of rice and having a good generous serving of a salad or a vegetable in the form of poriyal or utter, whatever is you're used to eating, and then also adding in a serving of protein. It can be eggs, or it can be, if it is someone who's a vegetarian, they can use paneer, they can use soy products, they can use beans and legumes. If it is a non-vegetarian, we can always include different varieties of meat, so there's protein, so that plate overall is balanced in terms of its nutrients. It has carbs, it has proteins, it has fats, it also has different varieties of vitamins and minerals, and also dietary fiber. So this is how you simply construct a balanced meal plate as such. Now, talking about blood sugar control, this could be extremely important in terms of regulating your blood sugar levels, mainly because a mixed meal can actually help sustain the release of glucose from the food you eat. So each and every food has something called the glycemic index. You would
Yes.
have heard of this
Yes.
term very casually, like there are foods that are high GI, low GI, and stuff like that. We
Exactly.
generally
Yeah.
say sugar is bad for health because it is high GI, and
Hmm.
vegetables are really good for health because it is low GI. So this GI basically means, it is an indicator of how your body reacts to particular food in terms of blood sugar levels. So
Hmm.
say, for example, when you take a teaspoon of sugar, it immediately spikes your blood sugar level, and that is why it is high GI. So
Oh,
if you compare that with, say, a cucumber, a bowl of cucumber, it doesn't increase your blood sugar levels as much as the sugar would do.
yes.
Right, so that is why it is on a lower GI.
Hmm.
So basically, the GI of what you eat is also affected by the different components of the meal, right?
Hmm.
So if I'm taking a mixed diet, even if I'm using refined rice on my plate, the GI of that rice is not going to harm me, because I'm still eating a lot of fiber, I'm still including proteins, I'm still having fat, good quality fats on my plate. So overall, the GI of my meal is going to be on a lower side, which is going to help me sustain my blood sugar levels. So that is where a balance or a mixed plate could be really useful when it comes to maintaining your blood sugar levels.
Okay. Yeah. So it is going to be hard for people, with cravings, they have extra sugar intake between meals. So it's going to be a little, tough, but still.
Yeah.
So, uh, so as we were talking about, cravings, what could be consumed to compensate for the sweet craving? Is there, anything in particular that you could, advise upon?
Okay, that's a very interesting question, because sugar craving is something most of us commonly
Yes,
face very frequently.
very frequently.
But the thing is, there would be some root cause. There would be
Hmm.
something that is contributing to sugar cravings, especially if that's excess. See, simply because I have a sweet tooth, and if I feel like eating a cupcake, it doesn't mean that I have severe sugar cravings. It might just be that I love cupcakes, and I just want to eat it at that particular moment. So it can be as simple as that. So it
Hmm.
is not really mandatory to be extremely restrictive as such, because that can be
Okay.
one of the root causes for the cravings. So
Okay.
say in the same example, I like cupcakes, and if I've been
Hmm.
restricting myself from eating cupcakes over a period of time, then naturally, like psychologically, I would have a tendency to, want
Yes.
it. right? So if I am less restrictive on myself, there is a higher possibility that I don't overdo on like even when I get to eat the cupcake, maybe even half the cupcake or even a bite of it would satisfy me, right?
Okay.
But when I restrict it and I suddenly come across a box full of cupcakes, I might eat the entire box.
So
So one,
it
yeah,
shouldn't be like a restriction for our. I mean, for my personally, for my grandmother, I had to stop her from I mean, she had her own cravings for sugar. I had to keep her on check because.
yeah,
But as you said, I think I did make a mistake, by doing that because whenever she, had the freedom, she would go in like all in. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
true. I understand
yes,
how it has to
yeah.
be done.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, definitely. So one of the root causes would definitely be extreme restriction. Apart from that, there can also be other root causes. It could be a decline in gut health, which can,
Okay.
hamper the good bacteria in your gut, and that can be a cause of sugar cravings. It can be simply because we're not eating adequately. So your body
Mm-hmm.
is actually craving for energy, and sugar can be something which can immediately spike your energy. So that
Yes.
might also be the reason. So if we can figure out what exactly is causing the sugar craving, we'll be able to deal with it much better. And
Mm-hmm.
apart from that, if generally I tend to have a sweet tooth and I generally want something sweet to taste, then I think I could go for fruits. I could definitely go for milk products. They naturally contain lactose and it tends to have a
Right.
mild sweetness. You can
Mm.
also go for dried fruits, small raisins. So you can always combine raisins with nuts. So nuts give you fats, nuts give you certain amount of protein, which can, prevent spikes that can happen with the high amounts of sugar that dried fruits can contain. Even with fruits, you can combine nuts and seeds. So all
Okay.
these can be ways in which you can still enjoy sweet food at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
not let it affect your blood sugar levels.
Okay. All right. So, if when it comes to tips on how to stick to diet keeping, uh, like for example, we have a big weekend coming up, or for like a huge event, and it's a family event, and with our especially with the elderly, grandparents or parents, would we have to restrict them for that little short duration, or would that cause them something? Would that impact them in a bigger way for like that little weekend, or like say a day or two? If they don't have, if they're not following those
Mhm,
lists like balanced diet and
mhm.
cravings and all that, so would that be an impact on them on a bigger scale if it's on a weekend like,
Okay.
event or something?
Right. So, with age, naturally our appetite tends to go down. We don't feel as hungry as we feel when we are in the early stages of life. So, naturally, our body kind of adapts to age.
Okay.
So, that in turn can help in terms of the quantity of intake and stuff, even when like we cannot really control what's available to us,
Mhm.
like in the example given by you. And
Yeah.
apart from that, again, it's not mandatory to restrict them on anything, but again, I think it's a matter of habit forming. So once they know what works for
Right.
their body and they've been following it over a consistent period of time, no matter what comes, be it a festival or be it travel or be it eating at a wedding, I think they would have enough knowledge and awareness as to how exactly a
Right.
particular meal or a particular a day's intake is going to affect their blood sugar levels. So even with whatever is available, we'll still be able to establish that balance. We'll still be
Right.
able to have a mixed meal.
Yeah.
So one thing where people tend to find it a bit difficult is with desserts, especially during celebrations and stuff. We don't have one dessert. We have our kitchen full of different varieties of desserts,
True.
and
True.
yeah, so there again, it is important that they are slightly careful because overindulging can definitely affect, cause spikes in blood sugar levels, which can in turn cause reactive hypoglycemia, which is a reduction in blood sugar levels in reaction to a spike in insulin. So all these can be a bit, it can affect your health, and it can lead to an emergency. So it is important that we are mindful with the quantity of intake. Again, it's
Yes.
not necessary that they completely restrict on anything, but it's just that they have to be mindful around their intake. So even if they want to have a dessert, it is technically better if they follow it after a meal. because anyways during the meal they would have eaten enough amounts of fiber, enough amounts of fats and proteins. So when they have a small portion of dessert immediately after that, these nutrients are going to take care of it.
True.
So that way we can just modify the meal timing and the portions to suit their needs.
Perfect. And so, because we really believe our 60+ clients could facilitate some methods, with the help of you, because as diet being the prime factor for well established healthy living, so I really hope our 60+ clients could take note of the importance of diet. And so moving on, what would you recommend and not recommend when it comes to fruits, dry fruits, for senior people affected with diabetes?
Right. So again, there is this myth that certain foods are forbidden for people with diabetes. Even when I was studying, we were given this instruction to instruct people not to eat this fruit, but that doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it's old school nutrition and maybe it's how it used to be, but that recommendation doesn't exist anymore. People are free to eat any fruit they want, but like we discussed earlier, we have something called the glycemic index, right?
Yes.
So different foods tend to have different glycemic index. Similarly, different fruits tend to have, like the glycemic index of a guava or an apple will be very different when compared to a glycemic index of jackfruit or a ripe banana. So it can, the way it affects your blood sugar levels can differ. So especially when there are these extremely sweet fruits like banana or jackfruit, it could be useful if we can add in other sources of proteins and fiber alongside eating the fruit, so that it can, like when it is digested as a whole, it tends to get emptied from the stomach more slowly, and that way the absorption is also slower, so the release of glucose into the blood is also slower. It doesn't cause a sudden increase. So how we can go about it is we can combine fruit and yogurt. Maybe we can, again, like discussed earlier, we can combine fruit and nuts, or have a small serving of fruit along with a meal. So again, this is a myth that we are not supposed to eat fruits along with a meal, but there's nothing of that sort. It's totally safe to eat fruit anytime during the day, any part of the day. So these kind of things can actually help get the best out of the fruits that you're eating. At the same time, not let it affect your blood sugar levels. With dry fruits, it's important to be careful, because since it's in the dehydrated form, it tends to naturally have higher sugar levels, simple sugar levels, so it tends to increase blood sugar levels quickly when compared to normal fruits that also contain water, come with fluid. So again, portion sizes has to be minimal. So maybe when you're taking dates or figs, maybe 3 to 4 numbers would do, and again combine it with nuts or seeds.
Okay. So like a quantity is also a part of this structure that you just gave, like a mix of with a good number of quantities. Okay.
Definitely.
Nice. Because so as we are talking about diabetes now, so I wanted to also like ask you, like fatigue and bone density, few words on that, and how could it help increase the energy, and decrease the muscle loss?
Okay. Perfect. So again, muscle loss and bone density is a natural outcome that happens with aging, and it is definitely preventable, or it can even be delayed. The severity of it can definitely be delayed. So as far as bone health is concerned, and nutrition is concerned, there are a lot of different nutrients that play a crucial role when it comes to bone health. The most important ones are taking adequate calcium and vitamin D. So calcium is abundantly found in food sources, so it's highly unlikely that we would not get enough calcium from food unless until we are not paying attention to it. So one of the major groups of food that we use for calcium are definitely milk and milk products. It's like ubiquitously used. Apart from that, even your sesame seeds, different varieties of your green leafy vegetables all contain good amounts of calcium. So they can all contribute to calcium intake. One major concern would be vitamin D, because deficiency is very common, but that again can be identified. In case there is a deficiency, it can be identified and it can be addressed.
Okay.
Vitamin D deficiency can in turn lead to a calcium deficiency. So if vitamin D is ignored, then it could
Okay.
also affect your calcium levels, your blood calcium levels. So apart from that, vitamin K is extremely important for your bones as well. So vitamin K again can come from different varieties of green leafy vegetables. Your body in turn produces its own vitamin K as well, but for that you need a good gut health because it's your gut bacteria that produces it. So
Right.
again, paying attention to your digestive health can indirectly even affect your bone health. So
Okay.
all these aspects could be given attention to in terms of maintaining a bone density. And apart from this, even like not just with bone density, even with muscle density, having a consistent physical activity could be a game changer, because
Yeah.
that would help you maintain your muscle, maintain your bone density, and it could prevent decline. So also, physical activity has been shown to be extremely effective when it comes to control of blood sugar levels as well. So adding in physical activity could be extremely important. Again, if there are difficulty in terms of movement, and if there are complicated bone conditions like osteoporosis or even arthritis, then you might need to have the advice of your doctor before you indulge too much into physical activity, or just fit in activity that is comfortable for you. But otherwise, adding in physical activity and also eating, to suit your physical activity is extremely important. There is no point in doing physical activity but not eating adequately. Then
Right.
there's
Yeah.
no
That's
use of
important.
doing the physical activity. In fact, it will lead to even more, loss in terms of muscle and bone.
True.
So these are some aspects that you can pay attention to in terms of strength. And as far as energy levels are concerned, the simplest thing is eat adequately. So if you eat adequate food, you get adequate energy, and also hydrate adequately, because when we are dehydrated, we tend to feel low on energy. And it's not just about water, you should also replenish electrolytes that you're going to be losing. So for that, you can use tender coconut water, or even buttermilk, or even electrolyte drinks that are available in the pharmacy could
Right.
actually help replenish loss of electrolytes.
Right. Right. How would you relate? So, how is B12 deficiency related to diabetic drugs?
Okay. B12 deficiency is extremely common among people with diabetes, especially because metformin is one of the most commonest drugs used to, lower blood sugar levels. And this drug has been well established to, relate to vitamin B12 deficiency as well. So anybody with who has been started on metformin, or who's been taking metformin for a long period of time, it is better to keep your B12 levels assessed. And in case there is a deficiency or there is a tendency for decline, it is important to get it addressed with the help of your doctor. So as far as food sources are concerned, B12 is majorly found only in animal food sources. So it could be difficult to get through diet for a person who is completely vegetarian. Of course, milk products could be a good source, but in case there are people who don't take milk products for various reasons, they might be
Yeah.
vegan, they might be intolerant to milk products. So in such cases, you might have to entirely depend on a vitamin B12 supplementation. Vitamin B12 is extremely important for the functioning of your nervous system, and with diabetes especially, it can cause a decline in functioning of the nervous system. So a B12 deficiency can make this worse. So it is
Okay.
important to get it addressed. Apart from B12, a metformin drug can also, relate to vitamin D deficiency and magnesium deficiency as well. And magnesium is an extremely important nutrient when it comes to blood sugar control.
Okay.
So it would also be important to assess symptoms of deficiency and, address it accordingly. Magnesium can be got from a lot of different nuts, oil seeds. So all these are good sources of magnesium, even green leafy vegetables, melons, gourd variety vegetables. So all these are good sources of magnesium.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's very important to actually, keep in mind. Could you advise on constipation and digestive health
Yeah.
issues? Like, how could it be made easy, for, of course, beloved elders? Um, is there anything apart from whatever you said, like balanced diet, hydration, with regular exercise, and good amount of supplements if required? Apart from that, is there anything that could help them um, to ease out, or is there an alternative?
So basically, gastric compromise can be an outcome of increased blood sugar as well, because it is very common among people with diabetes. And also it could be an outcome of the drugs used for treating diabetes. It could be one of the side effects. So one of the major things that we have to focus on, apart, so obviously increasing fiber intake, paying attention to your hydration. So all these are like the major causes of constipation. So addressing these can actually help, prevent constipation as such. Prunes are extremely effective when it comes to easing out your stools. But again, prunes are dried plums, so they are dried fruits. So they tend to be a bit high in terms of their sugar content. So you might have to be very careful when you're taking them. Maybe maximum take 1 or 2 pieces at a time, not more than that. But they are very effective. You can also use bananas. Bananas are rich in particular forms of fiber that can help ease your bowel movement. Now, one of the major things that we can focus on is improving on prebiotic and probiotic intake. So prebiotic is nothing but components in your food, and usually dietary fiber. That also there is another form of carbohydrate called resistant starch. So these also tend to have prebiotic effect. So basically, these are substances that won't get digested in the body. They don't release any energy. They pass through your digestive tract unchanged, and in your gut, they act. The bacteria that your gut has acts on these fiber, and it releases certain components which are essential for certain functions inside the body. So maintaining a good population of this bacteria is again extremely important when it comes to controlling blood sugar and also maintaining your digestive health. So prebiotics, adding in prebiotics could be extremely important. So this is where using whole grains instead of refined grains could be extremely useful, because whole grains naturally contain higher fiber content when compared to refined grains where the fiber is removed. Eating more vegetables and fruits could be extremely effective. Eating more nuts and seeds could be effective in terms of feeding your gut bacteria. And apart from that, the other term that we discussed was probiotics. Probiotics are basically live microorganisms that we take through food or even as supplements. Now, most people wouldn't require supplements unless until it's recommended by a medical professional. But through foods, the most commonly available sources of probiotics are curd and yogurt.
Okay.
So these are things that we can include on an everyday basis. Most fermented foods tend to contain live microorganisms that can be useful for us. But the thing is, when they are subjected to heat, they tend to destroy the probiotic content. Say, for example, your idli batter is fermented.
Yeah.
It technically should contain beneficial bacteria, but we generally steam or we cook it on the tawa if we make dosas.
Yeah.
So the probiotic property of it is destroyed. So we cannot really consider that as probiotic food. So you also have kimchi, kombucha, and the availability of these foods could be a question. But when it's available, you can definitely go for them, and it's not compulsory that you have to take it on an everyday basis. Curd and yogurt are good enough.
Curd and yogurt. Okay. Oh, that should really actually, hope it solves a lot of issues for people with that particular issue. So, just round up this whole amazing interview. So, just want to ask you, what would be the best 5 tips for senior citizens with diabetes, like just to complete this whole thing,
Yeah. So basically, the first thing is to pay attention to what we are eating, because that's like the first line of treatment for diabetes. Even if we go to a doctor with a freshly diagnosed, diabetes test, the first thing that they say is you need to eat appropriately. So that's like 80% of it is taken care of if what we send into our body, it supports our blood sugar levels. So that's the first thing. Second thing is have your blood levels monitored. Never ignore it for a long period of time, especially when there is chronic diabetes. Have it monitored at least every 3 months.
Lovely.
Yeah. So you'll know the pattern of how it's increasing or decreasing, or if it's maintaining, and that in turn can actually help you make choices in terms of what you're eating. So you would be able to connect and see what could have caused an increase, and if correcting that could in turn help you, get more control over your blood sugar levels. So that's one
Right.
thing. Second thing is weight. Body weight is not everything, but in case there is excess body fat, especially around your waist and your hips, which we call as
Yes.
abdominal obesity, it is extremely important to address it, because abdominal obesity is very much related to insulin resistance, which is the most common cause of diabetes. So
Okay.
addressing fat levels could be extremely, extremely important. So it does not necessarily mean weight loss, but make sure that you take measures that can help reduce on your body fat percentage. So that's one thing. Another thing is dehydration. Dehydration could culminate into a lot of different complications that diabetes can cause. So it is important to maintain proper hydration. In fact, one of the very classic symptoms of diabetes is excess urination and also
Okay.
excess thirst. So here it is extremely important that you give yourself adequate hydration, because there is a higher tendency for these adults to get dehydrated. So it's important to pay attention to their fluid intake. Also, wound healing is going to be slow. So if you notice any small cuts or injuries on your feet or on your hands, it's important to take it to medical attention immediately. You would also need to constantly go for reviews, be it with your endocrinologist, or even with mental health experts, or for general dental checkups. So all these are extremely important when it comes to managing diabetes, because everything are interconnected.
Yeah,
So
agreed. Yes.
yeah, and always carry a small candy or a small maybe a chocolate or something in your bag, because there are high possibilities, especially in old age, for blood sugar levels to drop below normal, which can be life threatening. It could lead to
Yes.
an emergency. So it's important to have something that could immediately address that. So usually shivers and without fever. So if someone feels cold without fever and they feel dizzy, it could be a sign of hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. And the immediate treatment for that is to take something sugary. If it's a teaspoon of sugar or if it's a small candy, that could actually help immediately correct it. So
All right.
that's something extremely important.
Wonderful, wonderful. Really, I really hope this information should have really pursued our clients, our 60 plus clients, to get some more insights. But of course, we lead them to the right of professionals like your good self. And so we have come to the end of this session. And Sujatha, thank you so much for once again. And thank you, viewers. We really hope this helps you get some basic insights. Uh, Please do reach out to 6 Plus India for appointments. And so we have one of our very good dietitian, Ms. Sujatha, and we are really looking forward to serve you. And thank you.